All right, class. So I want to talk to you about getting started with your imagery for the relief print. You've got to come up with a line drawing. It can be based around any theme of your choosing. And the way that I usually get started with ideas for my artwork, whether it's a print, a drawing, or a painting, is to visit my sketchbook. I sketch in there all the time. A lot of my images are just blind contour drawings or notes on the things that I see, but I'm constantly collecting visual images and things that inspire me. So to start out, I looked through my sketchbook and I gathered some images that I really liked, and I used those to explore a few potential thumbnail compositions. And this is just one of those sketches. It is of a cactus from my garden, and down here I've got, or I guess up here, I've got a drawing of a wallpaper pattern from memory that was in my grandma's kitchen. So I've got some things that are personally significant to me, bits and pieces that I wanted to explore in this image. And let me show you my thumbnail sketches. And I've got a photo of this in the module, but the thumbnail sketches, as you can see, they're small, right? They're like the size of a thumb. They're not very detailed. They're just little tiny scribbles essentially, but underneath each one I've got some notes on what is in that image and why. So a few different symbols that I was wanting to explore. Moons, rainbow and rain, maybe the wallpaper pattern, but in each one the bird is perched on something, whether it's plant life or a tornado. So I worked through those 3 thumbnail sketches, and then up here, this is the image that I settled on. So let me move this stuff out of the way. And the drawing, my thumbnails actually, they're on tracing paper, so they are transparent. And the tracing paper allows me to simply trace over images that I've already sketched in my sketchbook and put them together in new ways. So I really do like using tracing paper for that purpose. The other thing about tracing paper when it comes to printmaking is that it allows you actually to pretty easily transfer your image. So before I started drawing this image, it's a blue bunting perched on some cactus with a rainbow, some stars, and the moon. Before I began to draw him, I first laid my linoleum block down on the tracing paper and simply traced around it just so I would know how much compositional space I have to work with. So now what I'm going to show you is how to get your image onto the block. Now I spent a good bit of time doing the original drawing, so I didn't want to have to redraw them. I already had the image the way that I wanted it. So I'm just going to transfer it. The side that I drew on, this has all of the drawing material. So what I'm going to do is flip it over, center it on my block, and with either a pencil or a pen, I usually like a ballpoint pen, but I don't have one handy, so I'll just use my pencil. I'm just going to trace over the lines, and I'm pushing down hard. And the reason that you do this, and now the lead has run out, but that's okay because I can still use the end of the pencil, the plastic, to go over the lines of my drawing. And I'm going to hold the tracing paper down and lift this up so you can see. Because I'm pushing down hard, I'm actually transferring the graphite from the tracing paper onto the block. So this is a really great way to transfer your image. The pencil's actually working better now that there's now that there's no lead. So you're scribbling, pushing over top of those lines. And do make sure that you're using your non-drawing hand to hold down the tracing paper. You don't want it to move on you as you're doing this technique. Now there's some things like the stars in the background I'm not super worried about, or even the moon, I can draw that. But I want to make sure that I get the bird and the pattern in the cactus. And here's one thing I'm going to show you. I'll lift it up here. Do you guys see right here along the edge? My rainbow is actually really close to the edge of the block, and that's going to create some weird visual tension. So before I continue, and I should have caught this before I laid it down, but this is a good teaching moment. Before I continue, I'm going to erase this from the surface of the block, and I'll retransfer it, but this time I'll center the bird a little bit more so that I'll have equal space from side to side of the rainbow. When I'm grading your work, I'm going to be grading it based on your composition, right? How did you utilize the space of the plate? I've activated negative space here where there's nothing going on because the bird's looking in this direction. I brought your eye back down to the cactus with the rainbow. It sort of helps to frame in and emphasize the bird in the center. And also notice down here I've got a variety of sizes and a different line quality than the rest of the image, so it creates a little bit of visual interest. All you have to do this week, once you've gathered your supplies, come up with your thumbnail sketches and then figure out the image, which one you're going to use, or maybe you'll do like I did and take bits and pieces of each one of your thumbnails for the finished piece. At the end of this week, what I want to see in Canvas is a photo of your thumbnail sketches right next to your linoleum block that you've transferred the image to. I want you to take a picture of this and send it to me in the assignment that's embedded in Module 9. This is going to introduce you to submitting things online, but it's also going to give me an idea of the direction of your project and be able to give you some feedback in the development phase, just like I would in our studio. Now, those of you that are without your linoleum blocks, if you left them in the classroom when we went home for spring break, I didn't want you to have to buy double supplies. You can get a linoleum block this size. This is, I believe it's a 5x7. They're about $8 on Amazon. So if you're really dying to do this right now, you of course can get the material. But I have an alternative for those of you that may be without your linoleum block or without your carving tools. And your alternative is to use erasers, just small rubber erasers, and you'll carve those. I'll have a few images and a handout embedded in Module 9 tomorrow that details that process. It's super easy, it's super accessible, and you know, even if you do a linoleum print, you might want to try out a little carved eraser and do some stamping. All right, so there you have the thumbnail technique, the image generation, and how to transfer it using the tracing paper to your block. Just remember, the side that you've drawn on, that gets flipped over so that it's facing your block. This also reverses the image for the block, which is super handy for printmaking because, as you know, when you pull a print from the surface, it reverses. If you do put text in your image, the text has to be in reverse, okay? Otherwise, it's going to not print correctly. I would just caution you away from using text for this first project. All right, that's all. If you guys have any questions, please let me know in the Canvas inbox, and I look forward to seeing what you all come up with.